In what has sadly become a reoccurring trend on episodes of this show, we have to talk about somebody who died again.
Oh, hell.
So Jarrett passed away in between our episodes, the co-founder of the very company we're talking about.
Yeah. Someone whose book gave us many an insight in the early shows.
Oh, his book is the best because one, it gives you, as you said, like an insight into the founding of a wrestling company and Jerry's like day-to-day thought process as that company was being founded. If you've never read it, the development of NWA-TNA, something like that. It's basically his journal, his diary, as he was actually going through the process of the first year of TNA. So the entirety of 2002. So the 6 months leading up to the start of the company, and then the 6 months of the start of the company. And it is like just a fascinating insight into like starting a company like that, weird personal dynamics with your son, a deep, relentless hatred of Vince Russo, which is perhaps my favorite part of it. And then like the dealing with the just tumultuous first 6 months that was TNA, filled with like fraud and investors pulling out and bad shows and of course TNA being bought in the end. So like, I don't know, you can say a lot about TNA.
You sure can.
And you can say a lot about the business plan behind TNA and whether or not it was a very good idea to launch a weekly pay-per-view series.
It wasn't.
You can also say a great deal about the quality of the early TNA shows and frankly beyond.
They were bad.
We've said a lot. We have 34 other episodes saying a great deal about all of them. But when you look at the wrestling landscape that the Jarretts launched into, which was total and utter monopoly from the World Wrestling Federation, it was a pretty large fool's errand to even try. To even launch, because we already had Jimmy Hart's company backed by Hulk Hogan that flopped. We already had the World Wrestling All-Stars that flopped. So people, it's not like TNA were the first to try. It was already proof that like there's not really a market here anymore for a second wrestling company. And through stubbornness and pigheadedness, they brute forced their way into creating a second company that did provide people jobs for now going on 21 years. And your first thing might be to say, oh, but the company went broke in 2 months. Which, yes it did. But without the Jarretts, you don't get the Carters. Like, the Carters are only in wrestling through a personal connection to the Jarretts. So if you don't have the Jarretts taking that leap first, you don't have the Carters putting money into wrestling. And for basically 15 years, you don't have a well-paying, for as much as TNA were well-paying, but even like by the peak of the Spike years, they were offering good six-figure salaries to some wrestlers. So, well-paying jobs in wrestling. And that's ultimately like, Jerry Jarrett has a much larger influence than TNA, if you want to go back to further in his career when he has much more successful territories.
When at like 25, he's opening up territories in going to wrestling wars.
That upset me. Where it's just like, I was because thinking about like that like what he was doing at what age in his life, because he was a wrestler. But yeah, it's like, I haven't achieved anything and I'm 30.
Now you have a top tier podcast that's in the top 10% or whatever.
Oh yeah, we are in like the top 25% of wrestling patrons, so thank you for that, everybody out there, and help us get into the, because there's like, whenever Brandon releases that, there's like 25% and 10% or something, and we've never been in the 10%. So the main reason you should go to tnachat.com or patreon.com/getting
because we want to see our name on the list.
Yeah, we want to see their name on the list, and we want to be in the nice part of the pie chart.
Yeah.
But as I say, like you can say all you want about TNA and its business plan and its product, but without that leap, without Jarrett jumping into the wrestling business, and Bob Ryder, though he didn't put money in, you don't get the Carters and you don't get a number 2 in wrestling for a very long time. And like, there would have been a number 2. It would be naive to think nobody would have tried to jump into that space. But nobody with money would have, and it would have flopped, just like TNA did very quickly, just like WWA did, and just like that Jimmy Hart company did. So if you can listen elsewhere for, I think, deeper retrospectives on Jerry Jarrett. We'll, of course, be talking more about Jerry on this show.
But it's going to be sort of a continuous retrospective.
Yeah, because he does have a very big falling out with Jeff coming up that we haven't covered yet. So, which they did reconcile later in life, which was quite nice. But yeah, Jerry Jarrett has passed away. But too many people are dying. That's the 3rd episode in a row we've had to do some kind of memoriam to.
We're getting like one a week.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that, where it's like TNA is 21 now, which is pretty old. And
Yeah.
we're increasingly like moving into the phase where like the wrestlers I watched growing up are getting older and older. And it's going to be like the sad wrestling fans who are like 50 now. It's like all that my faves are dying. It's like, no, I don't want to get to that age where all my favorite wrestlers are going to die. That is the grim process of aging, isn't it, Liam?
I wouldn't know.
You are but a spry, youthful young fellow.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't bounce youthful and young off each other, by the way. It's bad English. I should have chosen a better synonym. Enthusiastic, perhaps? Energetic?